Energy efficient homes are not expensive to build. They're expensive when you get them wrong. And that's what most people do. They chase fancy windows and solar panels. They ignore one simple step that actually makes the biggest difference in comfort and energy bills. I'm Jason with Homestead Home Builders here in Northern Colorado. I've been building custom homes for a long time now, and I can tell you, the families who love their homes the most didn't just add insulation. They followed a very specific sequence. Let me walk you through it. Right, so here's what we're going to do in this video. First, I'm going to show you the 3 big myths about energy efficient homes that cost people money here in Northern Colorado. Then I'll walk you through the actual framework we use when we design and build efficient homes in plain English, so you don't have to be an engineer to understand it. And finally, I'll explain what's realistic for our climate and our codes, what's worth paying for and what usually isn't, so you can go into your custom home build with clear expectations. By the end of this video, you will know enough to avoid expensive mistakes I see over and over again. Let's start with the myths. Now here's the thing. Almost every homeowner I meet who cares about energy efficiency walks into our first meeting with the same 3 ideas in their head. And if we don't clear those up early, they end up designing the wrong house for their budget for Northern Colorado. Let's walk through them. Myth number 1, energy efficiency just means more insulation and better windows. This is the big one. Most people think we can just spec spray foam everywhere and triple pane windows and we're set. And I get it. That's what the advertising tells you. But here's what most folks don't realize. If the house design is leaky, if the framing is full of thermal bridges, if the mechanical system is oversized and poorly designed, you can throw a lot of money at insulation and windows and still end up with cold spots, hot upstairs, and higher bills than you'd expect. I tell people this all the time. An energy efficient home is a system, not a shopping list. We start with how the house is oriented on the site, how simple or complex the shape is. Then we talk about building shell, then mechanicals, then gadgets. If you flip that order, you pay more and get less. We're going to come back to that system idea when I show you our framework in a minute. Myth number 2, solar panels are the first step. Solar is great. We do homes with solar. I'm not against it at all. But if the house itself is wasteful, the solar is just band-aiding a bad design. Think of it like a leaky bucket. Most people want to stick a bigger hose in the bucket, which is soap. We'd rather fix the leaks first. Here in Northern Colorado, with our cold winters, hot summers, and plenty of sun, the order matters. If we tighten up the shell, size the mechanicals correctly, and use smart glazing first, then when you add solar, you'll need less of it and it pays back faster. So solar is not step 1, it's step 4 or 5. Myth number 3, energy efficient homes feel complicated or uncomfortable. I hear this a lot. People worry that high efficiency homes mean they can't open windows or the house will feel stuffy, or they have to constantly fiddle with the smart thermostats and apps. Done right, it's actually the opposite. A good efficient home feels quiet. The rooms are the same temperature, you're not getting blasted by cold air when you walk by a window in January, and your mechanical systems just kind of disappear to the background. If it feels complicated or uncomfortable, that's a design problem, not an efficiency problem. Now we've cleared those up, let me show you how we actually think about this when we're designing a custom home. Because once you see the order we follow, this all starts to feel a lot simpler. So let's talk about how we actually build an energy efficient home here in Northern Colorado. When we sit down with a new client, we're not starting with what R value do you want or do you want a heat pump? We walk through simple framework that has 4 big pieces in order. Let's take these one at a time. Step 1, design and orientation. This is the boring part no one brags about on Instagram, but it's the most powerful. On your lot, we look at sun path, prevailing winds, views versus heat gain, how a snow will drift, where shade will fall, both now and as the trees grow. Here in Northern Colorado, the winter sun is your friend. We want to let it in when you need it and keep the hot summer afternoon sun out. So what does that actually mean? It might mean slightly more glass on the south side with overhang size to block summer sun, but let the winter sun in. Being careful with big west-facing glass, or at least using the right glass there. Organizing the floor plans so your main living areas get the best natural light and warmth. If we get this wrong at the plan stage, there's no equipment or insulation that will totally fix it later without spending a lot of money. So that's always our first conversation. Step 2, the shell, insulation, windows, and air tightness. Once we're happy with the design and orientation, then we talk about the shell. The shell is just the lid and walls of your cooler. I like to use this analogy. If you buy a cheap cooler and fill it with expensive ice, it still melts fast. If you buy a well-built cooler, you won't need as much ice. Your house works the same way. Here's what we focus on in our climate. A well-insulated roof and attic assembly. Walls are not just thick, but detailed correctly. Good windows in the right places installed properly. And a big one, air tightness. Most energy loss is not from heat leaking straight through the insulation. It's from air sneaking out around it, gaps, cracks, and little holes. We spend a lot of time on air sealing details. It's not glamorous, but it's where a lot of the comfort and performance come from. Now, do you need spray foam everywhere? Not necessarily. Sometimes well-detailed, dense pack or fiberglass system with good exterior sheathing and air sealing performs just as well for less money. That's kind of we walk you through in the design based on your goals and budget. Step 3, mechanical systems. Heating, cooling, and fresh air. Once the shell is designed, now we know how big the load is. That's when we size the mechanical systems. This is where a lot of homes around here go wrong. They get a big one-size-fits-all furniture AC slapped in, oversized by habit, and no one ever actually calculates what the house needs. Oversized equipment, short cycles. You get hot and cold swings one waysy, and it doesn't dehumidify as well. In an efficient home, we can usually step down to smaller, right-sized systems. That might look like a properly sized, high-efficient furnace, or a cold climate heat pump with a backup, depending on your goals. Thoughtful duct design so every room is more comfortable. Even in tighter homes, a fresher system like an HRV or ERV, so you're always getting filtered outside air without throwing away your heat. You shouldn't have to think about any of that day to day. You should just know the home feels comfortable, smells fresh, and your utility bill doesn't surprise you. Step 4, smart upgrades and technology. Now, finally, we get the fun stuff most people want to start with. This is where things like solar panels, battery storage, smart thermostats and controls, electric vehicle charging, higher-end glass packages, all starts to make sense. The key is we're adding these on top of a good design and shell and mechanical system, not trying to fix those with gadgets. Sometimes at this stage, we'll price options. For example, if we add this more insulation, go with this window package. Your monthly bills will drop roughly by X compared to the base spec. If we invest the same money into solar instead, here's how that looks. Then you can decide what fits your priorities. Some families want the absolute lowest utility bill possible. Others want a solid, efficient home without chasing every last percent. Either way, if we follow this framework, you're getting a good value for every dollar you put into efficiency. Now, the next question I usually get at this point is, okay, Jason, but what's realistic in Northern Colorado? Where do people usually overspend or underspend? Well, let's talk about that. This is where it gets practical, because you can read a lot online about net zero homes, passive homes, and all kinds of systems that may or may not make sense where we live. Let me give you a real world view of what's usually worth it here, and where I see people going too far or not far enough, where it's usually worth spending a little bit more. Better air sealing and quality control. You can't see it when the drywall is up, but you will feel it every single day. A tighter heat means fewer drafts, less dust, quieter interior, better control of humidity and temperature. This often comes down to extra time and attention from the builder and the trades, and sometimes a blower door test to confirm. It's usually one of the best returns on investment. Windows in the right places with the right glass. I'm not talking about buying the most expensive window brand on the planet. I'm talking about a good quality window that closes tightly. Using different glass coatings where it makes sense. For example, more solar gain in the south, less on the west. Planning windows around views, privacy, and sun, not just, we like big glass everywhere. Those thought through properly do a lot for comfort and efficiency here. Mechanical design, not just mechanical equipment. You can buy the best furnace or heat pump out there, and if the ducts are wrong, you're still going to be uncomfortable. We put a lot of weight on proper load calculations, duct layout, where supply and return vents go, making sure bedrooms and basements actually get enough air. That design work is more than just spending an extra couple thousand on a premium piece of equipment that's still oversized and poorly installed. Where people often overspend, chasing extreme R values without a plan. It's easy to double the insulation in parts of the home and feel like you've done something big. But there are points of diminishing returns. Going from a poorly insulated wall to a properly insulated one is huge. Going from good to over the top sometimes doesn't change your bill much, but it empties your wallet. We like to model or at least rough out the gains before recommending pushing things too far. Putting solar on a poorly performing house. We already touched on this. If your shell and systems aren't wasteful, you just end up needing a bigger solar system to cover that waste. We'd rather spend a little first tightening up the home and then size the solar for more reasonable load. Every now and then a homeowner will ask about a very unique European system or a complex combination of multiple technologies. In theory, some of these can be very efficient. In practice, if something breaks in February and no one local knows how to work on it, that's not a win. We try to stick with systems that are efficient, right-sized, and supported by good trades and manufacturers in your area. What's realistic to expect? So what can you realistically expect from an energy efficient custom home in Northern Colorado? If we follow the framework we talked about, most of our clients see much more stable temperatures room to room, less noise from outside and from the equipment, noticeable drop in their utility use compared to an older home, often even compared to new code minimum homes. And maybe most important, a home that feels good to live in year round. Not every home needs to be a certified this or that, but every home should be comfortable, durable, and reasonable to operate. And that's what we shoot for. Now, if you're thinking, all right, this makes sense, but how do I actually apply this to my land, my budget, my wish list? That's exactly where a good discovery conversation comes in. Let's wrap this up and I'll show you your next step. Let's recap this in simple terms. Energy efficient homes are not about buying the fanciest windows or the most expensive HVAC system. They're about designing a home and its orientation for a Northern Colorado climate, building a tight, well-insulated shell with quality windows, right sizing and properly designing your mechanical systems. And then, if it fits your goals, layering on smart upgrades like solar. If you follow that order, your home will be more comfortable, more predictable, and more affordable to operate without you having to become an expert or live in a science experiment. Now, here's the next piece most people run into. Once you understand the basics efficiency, the next big question is, how do I fit all of this into a real budget on a real piece of land without getting surprised halfway through the build? Because insulation, windows, mechanicals, and site conditions all show up in the budget. And if those numbers aren't clearly thought through on the front end, that's where people get caught off guard. We go deep into that in our video called. In that video, we talk about the hidden costs that impact your budget, including some of the efficiency decisions we touched on today. So if you haven't seen it yet, that's the one I'd watch next. And if you're at the point where you'd rather talk through this in the context of your own project, your land, your ideas, your budget, go ahead and request a free discovery call with our team at Homestead Home Builders. We'll sit down with you, look at your site and goals, and walk through what an energy efficient custom home could look like for you here in Northern Colorado. No pressure, no hard sell. Just an honest conversation so you can make smart decisions before you start spending money. Click the link, set up a time that works for you, and we'll take it from there. I'm Jason with Homestead Home Builders. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to talking to you about your home.